Cool. Let's dive into Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. What were your thoughts on this, Peter?
Gosh. I mean, first of all, I found it more. Let me just say, there was a bit more of a comedic angle in my mind, or some little cherries in there that I was just like, this is outrageously hilarious from my perspective. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But so, and I'll throw in a couple of those this week as we move forward. But we're starting on in the absolute thick of a major revelation or accusation. I was just like, oh my God, we're starting with like someone accusing someone's husband of fucking other men. And I was just like, we are coming in hot.
Yeah.
Like that was like, holy shit. That's kind of like a level 11 start.
Yeah.
And so, with no context of like who we're talking about, what the history of any of these relationships was, I was just like, wow, okay, here we go. I will say that I absolutely loved starting off in this ski lodge, if that's where we were, with people wearing the most unfathomable outfits in a ski lodge, like nothing you would ever see on a ski hill. Like could be no possibility anyone was planning on going out and doing anything. I mean, who was it? One of them was in a cape, like a white cape, kind of knit cape outfit. And Heather was in that fucking gold bomber that was like, it looked like she could have been in a Macy's parade.
Yeah.
Like it was just this giant golden orb that I was like, if you ever fell on a ski hill in that thing, you'd be at the bottom of Salt Lake, like the bottom. So I was immediately swept into like this insane accusation and then this fabulous party. And there was somebody who was only there that I don't know who they were, who I really fell in love with for a very short period of time, who just simply said, I can't believe I wasted an outfit on this party. And where's the food? And why won't you put the pizza in the box? It's just bad service.
Yeah.
It's just like, who was that? I couldn't find her anywhere else. And I was like, hilarious. She was just like so bummed that the food was a shit show and she wasted a TV ready outfit on this.
Yeah, that's Mary Cosby, and she is an icon. She was a previous housewife on Salt Lake City, and now she's back in like a friend of capacity, and just does not give a shit.
Yeah, she's back just to show up at every party and just be really antisocial, and it's so amazing. It's just at every party, no matter what else is happening, there'll be a couple cuts to Mary just being completely done with everybody and not wanting to be anybody's friend. That's so funny.
Fuck, it was so funny. And I know early on in there too, there was one thing that I thought was hilarious. I don't even remember who it was that was talking about it. It was like two people. It must have been in regards to the accusation towards the husband, but somebody had said to somebody else, like, come over here, I want to talk to you privately. And you're in this giant ski lodge. They just basically go over to like another busy area of the lodge for their private conversation. And the very second that they sit down and the cameras are with them, there's like two other people already hovering. Like there's like it's like the possibility of a private conversation is like, it's not possible. And then secondly, saying it, they know that's not going to be possible. It's just like, I like to say this because it sounds dramatic, but let's go over here where there's still lots of people because we're going to talk. I was like, yeah, okay.
What were your what other highlights did you have from this episode?
So then we jump to who was the husband that had this accusation?
So that's Angie's husband.
Angie
Sean.
and what's Angie? That's right, Angie and Sean.
Yeah.
I mean, highlights for me were just the animals at Angie and Sean's place. So there is that standard poodle that's been
it's anything but standard.
Yeah, it's anything but standard that has been paw dipped and head dipped in pink.
Yeah.
Just kind of forlornly looking for outside. You feel this dog has never stepped outside. There could be no way that dog, there's no possibility. There's probably an indoor room that they've made look outdoors so that the dog has some sense of it. But it was like seeing that dog, but then also paired with the family portrait that's in the bedroom with Sean and the mini horse.
Oh, amazing.
And then the kids, like that one, is it one or two kids and her, maybe just one?
I think it's just
in that picture.
The daughter Electra.
Yeah, I think
right,
so, yeah.
right. And so, but it was the thinking around, like, first of all, a staged family portrait is something to begin with, but just somewhere along the lines where the conversation of a mini horse comes in, and it's like, yeah, it should be with a mini horse. Dad should have the mini horse. Not like the 4-year-old, like just sort of proudly walking a mini horse up the path from them. It just seemed like the ridiculous relationship to like the extremes of animals, like taking a standard poodle and dipping it in pink, and a family portrait where there's a mini horse involved. Like, it's kind of like they like animals, but not real animals, like kind of unusual Disney type animals. That kind of stuck out as something that I quite enjoyed, like just quietly relishing seeing that family portrait.
I also could not get over that family portrait. Just such a bizarre series of decisions going into that. Like, it's just Sean's just kind of, he's got one hand like petting this kind of fat miniature pony and just seems to be gazing forlornly downwards at his wife and daughter crouched in like a dirt trail. Like, what is going on there? Why do you have this photo? Why is it the only thing in your bedroom?
Oh my God. Like, honestly. And then the emotional breakdown for him at the idea of like, and both of them talking about their biggest concern was for their daughter. That their daughter would hear, something about an infidelity or, whatever the allegation was. And I'm just like, I don't fucking believe you for a second. If you're on this show and you're having this moment of like, but, the foremost of our mind is protecting our child from these things that may be alleged about us in our relationship. And I'm like, you're on the show, dude. I mean, I get it. Like, kids are off game, but it's like, it's a little too late to think about, well, what if they heard something, about our past, and it's kind of like that ship sailed, pal.
And you'd have to know going into this that like these rumors are out there. Like, it's it's Utah. Like they say, you're a hairdresser. You've got this poodle that you're walking down the street. Like,
you went to like 17 photographers until you found one with a mini horse.
Like Heather says, it's Utah. As soon as somebody's wearing a cardigan, they're gay.
Cardigan and what was it? Tapered pants.
I love Heather's assessment, honestly.
Like, the one thing that is very interesting in this particular franchise, which I knew nothing about. I mean, I still, other than this episode, I don't know anything about. But it is very interesting, the just kind of the overriding element of the Mormon church and religion and sort of some of these, when I think about some of the restrictions that are kind of within the Mormon church, and having that against the backdrops of a Real Housewives franchise where, someone's on there saying, well, if you have Diet Coke, you can't step into the church.
Right.
And I'm kind of like, Diet Coke on the spectrum of like, things you could do wrong in a Real Housewives franchise is just like fucking off the scale. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, it's closer to, when I think somewhere in there they said something about like giving blowjobs for jazz tickets or something. And you're like, and it's like, and the one end of the spectrum on this thing is, well, you can't step into a church if you have Diet Coke. So it's like, if you're giving blowjob for jazz tickets, what does that mean? How many miles away do you have to be from the church? So it's just like an interesting element that sort of, it actually is a very interesting conversation piece for, in a larger way, just kind of about that being the background and connection for a lot of different housewives and their families in this franchise. It's just, I found that quite interesting. It gives it a different, interesting depth than you might find in a couple of the other housewife franchises, I suppose.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah. And I feel like we got a lot more of that this episode than we do typically. Like, it's always kind of sprinkled in a little bit of an overtone, but I thought that we got a really interesting contrast between Monica's relationship with like her mother and the church, and Lisa and her son's relationship with the church. It was like kind of polar opposites in terms of how they navigated that situation. both because, the nature of the relationship. Monica's the child in that case, and Lisa's the parent. But Lisa, the way that Lisa kind of the way that she is Mormon is she kind of like picks and chooses the pieces that like work for her. And I mean, that seems like a very like healthy way, honestly, to practice a religion. Whereas, Monica's mom and Heather as well, like they have a very kind of black and white view of the faith. So I really thought that this was a interesting dimension to this episode.
Yeah, for certain. And I also, shout out to what was it? Hold on, what's the grandmother's name? Nana.
Yeah,
shout out to Nana. That was one of my other highlights in this episode. Was just all of a sudden being in the car with Nana and Monica and her mom, and just like the introduction to Nana, she looked so like stone-faced and cold and almost dead. Like, oh, Nana, she's just so quiet until we get her in the senior center, until we get her fish sandwich. And like looking at Nana's expression was just like, she fucking has zero energy or interest for being there. And even when she got into the senior center, it was like, look, everybody, Nana's here. And everyone's just like, oh, okay, sit her down. And it was just like, oh my God, Nana.
I think Nana's the one person that Mary would get along with.
And then
the senior center was crazy. Like this was a wild scene. I love that it opened up with like a montage of like cards and word searches, and then I was trying to piece together what game they were playing. This dealer
idea.
Just it was yelling cards randomly,
like throwing shit in baskets, and it was kind of like 10 years ago maybe that was whist, and then this is just what it's turned into. If you can get it in a basket, that gives you 2 aces, but only if you've got a queen of hearts.
Everyone's cards like face up on the table, but like organized into rows, and then the dealer's like 7 of hearts. Nope.
The last person who remembered the rules just lost their memory last week, and now everybody's just playing along, assuming the other people know how the game works.
That dealer was heavily favored, got a lot of nice airtime right there. They kept on going back to her as she was calling out random cards. It's like, oh yeah, okay. But and then Nana scolding them at the end, just saying like, no dirty in here. Like after they have at the top of their lungs been just like having the filthiest back and forth, like just hilarious. Of all the places to go and like have it all out at a senior center.
Starting a healthy conversation about boundaries, and the one example that Monica can come up with is, I could be 69ing on my couch. Like
Oh shit. And then my other highlight was Meredith and her son. Am I right?
Brooks.
Meredith and her son Brooks, who inexplicably is wearing ski goggles in the car. And I was like, this, first of all, there's too many things in that little moment that I luxuriated in. Like, first of all, this, this kind of flashback to this crazy car accident. And they've found some archival pieces of like, they sort of go down this incredibly dramatic reenactment that they've built from nothing, like from found footage of something else. And because the only footage that they have is basically this giant Suburban that's gone about 1.5 feet into some snow. Like it's I mean, look, maybe the other side was a cliff. I don't think it was. This may have been just in Meredith's memory of it, but it was just seems so non-dramatic. But then I was like, do the goggles have to do with that in case they hit another snowbank and have to literally dig themselves out? That now we do that. So I love the goggles, and then Fred also his just fucking attitude of like, I could give 2 fucks. But them then going snowshoeing, wrestling with trying to figure out how a snowshoe goes on. There's not too many ways. And then the snowshoeing was just happening in what seemed to be like the back lot of like a Target parking lot. and just the final image of like Brooks just bouncing, like bounding through the parking lot with snowshoes on. It just seemed like of all of the places in Utah, in Park City or any, where Salt Lake, wherever they could go, which would be just kind of like the most idyllic winter wonderland setting. They're in some salted parking lot where there's power lines, and like it just seemed absolutely ludicrous.
Dylan, what were your highlights?
I mean, I basically just want to return on a lot of things that Peter brought up, because there's so many great points there. Like the aesthetics of the fight in the party at the start, like you mentioned, was so amazing that just underlines how fun the fight is when you've got one of them dressed like an evil wizard in Lord of the Rings with like a white cape, and then versus Angie with her like Greek meander patterned like bodysuit, like she's in like some 90s techno video.
Oh my God.
Just so good. I do love the use of religion in this episode too. Like you mentioned, always a great part of Salt Lake City. It's one of the things that makes the show a lot richer. As you mentioned, that's one of the things that makes it so interesting to me, is that all these Housewives shows are often about like different people having their own conflicting moral frameworks that they're bringing into every situation. But when you've got all these people that are part of a religion, or in some ways reacting to a religion or trying to leave a religion, you have this overriding moral framework, which is also this kind of weird baseline that everybody's kind of reacting against or towards in different ways. Very interesting stuff. I really like near the end when Heather and Whitney get into it kind of about that too, how Heather doesn't really want to congratulate Lisa's son for doing a mission, because she's like, the church is bad, and you agree with me, Whitney, and like you agree that the church is like homophobic and like anti-woman in a lot of ways and stuff, but you think it's cool to just be like, oh, good on your son for like going knocking on doors and asking people to join the church and stuff. I thought it made Heather look like a lot more principled, which was which was interesting, and I do think that that Heather came off good in that sense. And also earlier on in the party, when everybody's like, "I've never heard those rumors. Where did those rumors come from?" And Heather's like, "Everybody's heard the rumors. Come on." Yeah. And Whitney's just trying to like hide her hand and being the person who was like, Monica, you've got to go tell her. You've got to be the one to go bring it up. Do it, Monica. Do it. Just go to get on. And then afterwards being like, oh, where did these rumors come from? Where did this come from? Angie's whole house is insane. It's not just like the painting in the bedroom. It's just like Craig mentioned this last time. It's like there's a white space with just the occasional like empty Veuve Clicquot bottle or like a weird purple orb sitting on a shelf. Just a beautiful thing. Everything looks great in this episode, honestly. Just everything looks great. But probably the ultimate highlight does have to be the senior center, which was just having this discussion intercut with a card game, and just having that kind of dynamic of the generations, and just like being like, there almost seems to be like a veiled threat in Monica bringing her mom to the senior center, being like, "Oh no!" At some point, my decisions are going to be what you're relying on. So let's watch what we're saying here.
God, even like in that moment too, I'm just reminded that she was like saying, "You can't just barge into my house because I could be doing 69 on the couch.
I could be 69."
I was like, "Oh my God." But you could just leave it at like, don't barge into my house. But it's like, no, let me go as far as I can on this 69ing on the couch.
Their conversation was like really loud, really raw, really great conversation. But then also you've got the church stuff in there too. Like, Monica saying to her, like, you apologized for raising me in the church. And now you're like, you want to be about the church again. Like, this also is kind of similar to Heather and Whitney's discussion, where it's like, at a certain point, do you get to pick and choose? Like you said, Craig, like picking parts of the religion that you like. Is that actually a healthy thing to do? Or are you just being kind of hypocritical and choosing your moments when you want to say, oh, I disavow the bad things they're doing. But when it's like socially helpful for me and my circle, I will like be, I'm Mormonish. I support the decisions of the people who are in the Mormon community because this is our community. This is our network. I'm not sure that always is healthy. And these like running themes about the weird relationships. Everybody has a weird relationship to the Mormon church in this.
Even if they aren't Mormon,
exactly. Whether they're in the church or not, whether they've left the church or are like kind of drawn towards it, or whether they're like like Lisa, who's like is like, should I read the Book of Mormon? Is it fun? Should I bring it to the beach?
Avid reader Lisa Barlow.
I wrote down for no reason just something that just says Lisa lives to get triggered. And I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what moment it was, but something struck me that was just sort of like, this is somebody that cannot wait to be able to say that something triggers her, ready to just jump in at whatever it is. I think I know what it was about. Were they there to try to make somebody else feel better? But then she just kind of immediately took the wind out of that to turn it around on her and her being triggered about something. You know what I mean?
Apparently there was a birdhouse painting party we missed too, which I was really upset that we didn't get that scene. We just get a little glimpse of a Heather painting a birdhouse, and that's one of the things that, I want to come back to something you said really early, Peter, when you were saying what's different about the shows now based compared to when you first started watching them. And that's really true what you said, in the sense that they make it really quick now. They pack in a lot of scenes or fragments of scenes in a single episode. When you watch like those early seasons of New York and Beverly Hills and stuff, you'd have one conversation between two people, which would be the whole block between commercials.
Yes.
They don't do that anymore, and that's kind of something that's been lost. Like, I do love the way the show's work now too, but that's something that's kind of been lost, is just the kind of like seeing a whole conversation and just like having like all the bits of it. And I feel like in a lot of ways they've refined the machine to the point where they're shooting so many scenes, and they've gotten so good at just picking out, okay, this moment's content, that they're just cramming in a bunch of content moments. You're not getting to live with the characters as much as they have a weird, rambling, awkward dialogue.
Because as you say that, I'm reminded that's right. Like those early days, if I'm thinking about something like the New York franchise back then, you exactly as you say, you'd sort of like, it would be like, we're going to go and spend the next 7 minutes with this couple. And we're going to go and watch what they're up to. Then we're going to go and like spend the next like 3-minute chunk with this person that they had referenced and what they're up to. And so, and as I say, like in the Utah one in particular, in the Salt Lake show in particular, it did feel like at that beginning, I was just like, my head was spinning. I was like, this feels like an extended kind of like bumper tease for something that's going to happen. But I was like, oh no, this is the episode. And so as somebody that didn't really know the people or didn't know anything, it was kind of a bit boggling. I thought, well, I guess if you know everybody, it just takes a sentence or two, and that's all you really need to hear. But I agree with you that sometimes it was kind of, I enjoy sometimes sitting into a longer conversation and finding the dynamics between people. That might just take a little bit more production time, quite honestly. Like it almost just feels like to do that means you've got to shoot so many long, crazy, like just so many long scenes. And maybe at this point it's just kind of like, no, we'll go and get our whatever days, just chop it up a lot. We'll get some, soundbite here, soundbite there. It works perfect.
Let the editors
who knows? Yeah.
But it was a great episode on the whole. I just found it really, really fascinating. And and still love Monica too, because just her outsider status is just so key to the dynamic for this season to me.
Yeah, it really brings a lot. And also her mom and her both seem to be dealing with being on television in different ways. Like I got the sense that Monica's mom was kind of bringing up this like, not like newfound Mormonism, but like just being like, oh, I'm, following these pieces of the doctrine. And she's really trying to like present herself in a certain way for the cameras. And I wonder if that has something to do with how the show is received within the community. I'm not entirely sure, but it's a big like contrast to Monica, who seems to be like very, she comes across very honest and very open about how she's feeling and what her motivations are. And it doesn't seem as like produced as any of the other housewives that are on this show.
The other thing that's funny about their relationship, their dynamic on screen to me, is that Monica's mom really does seem to be like, oh, I'm having a good time. This is like, we're joking around. I'm on camera. This is fun. And Monica's like, I'm trying to get you to talk about my childhood trauma.
Yes. A couple other things that I'll throw out there that I was reminded of too was there was the mother and son pedicure scene.
Yeah.
I love how both Lisa and Meredith have these like blasé twink sons. That's so cool.
I mean, I was just like, and there was sort of talking kind of about like the hardships or how challenging it will be to be on this mission, right? Yeah. As they're in what seems to be like the most luxurious looking leather hand-tuned seats, getting their pedicures done, and she was kind of fishing for like, you know what, I'm a good mom because look at what I've pushed you to do, to go and do your mission, to which he immediately shuts down saying like, no, going on the mission was totally my own decision. It was just kind of like, you could see her and you're like, you knew that stung a bit because she's kind of looking for some of that validation, right? And he wasn't going to give her any of that.
No. The scene literally ends with the exchange, I love you so much. Yeah. His response is, yep.
Oh no. Oh. There was that, and then the other one that sort of I was reminded of was was it Monica? Because is she a single mom maybe and has 4 kids?
Yeah, 4 kids.
Oh my Lord! And so, anyways, when I was kind of boggled at that to begin with, going like, holy shit. She's juggling a ton.
Yeah.
But the conversation in the minivan as it was like getting all the kids ready to school, and it was like a teachable moment about boners. She was worried that what was the word that she was worried that they were referring to, like bitches maybe, and but then it was bitches, boners. Yeah. It was just like out of the mouths of babes. It was a wonderful teachable moment about boners.
Yeah. I like that Monica's like was saying in that scene, or a confessional attached to that scene, that she wishes that she could just have 5 extra hours of sleep. Not like a single, but 5 extra hours of sleep.
Oh my God. An extra 5, which would probably triple the amount of sleep she has.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Any other final thoughts on Salt Lake City?
I wrote down Greek Easter teas, and I don't know why. Was it the end of it? Was there like some crazy looking Easter party that they were teasing towards? Is that what it was?
Angie's Greek, by the way.
Yes.
You might not have known.
Right. Yes. I think it was I think it was right off the bat. She was IDing that right away. Yeah. Actually, she really was, right? Because she was talking about being raised Orthodox Greek or something like this. In any case, this Greek Easter teas, I don't know why I wrote it down. Did it look like it was just going to be an outlandish party? It must have been that I was like, oh shit, I want to see what in the world is going to happen at this Easter party.
Yeah, I have no idea what this is about. I'm looking forward to it as well. Angie's a new housewife, and she's on the scene she made an appearance in the last season, but we're getting a lot more out of her now. One of the most notable things being that she's Greek.
Yes, right.
I feel like she brings a lot of drama. We saw that definitely at the start of this episode.
Yeah, I love how much she defends herself. I love how hard she goes into her fights with Meredith. She goes full throttle. I respect that.
Oh, yeah. And what is going to be like? How is the rest of the season going to play out for Sean? And I mean, with this, like, I mean, that's such a huge accusation.
That's really going to damage his hairdressing business.
I mean, either that or or it's going to like take it to the next level. You can't tell.
You
can't tell.
More so that.
The wealthiest hairdresser in all of Utah. But it's like that was such a giant, like such a bomb to be dropping.
Yes.
Oh my God.
It's kind of a big like, piece of information to be lobbed at you in your first season as a housewife. We don't see
it's episode 4.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It'll be interesting to see how Angie kind of responds from that. I guess we got a similar storyline out of Jen on OC. It was more just about her current partner being unfaithful, but
it somehow has a slightly larger resonance given the notion that we're in sort of this backdrop of the Mormon church somehow. You know what I'm saying? Like that. Yeah. It feels like in a different setting, it has less of a less of a thing, but there's, I suppose it already, because it's like, so we're talking about in that community, and they're bringing it up in the show, notions of homophobia and notions of like all of that. Like it's an even larger accusation there than, let's say, somewhere else where it's kind of like, you know what I mean? Like it just sort of seems like such a huge unusual thing to throw out there. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm curious as to how they kind of like play off of this down the road, because like I said, they had to have known that this is a rumor that is for sure going to like come out. So they must have done some prep for this, or is this like, how would this truly be catching them off guard that this could be like the first thing that comes out?
Yes. No, I mean, there, in a lot of ways, you would have to sort of go like, the producers are hoping and teeing this up to be like, well, we've got this potentially very fiery nugget that if it's brought up, how will it be addressed? Like, yeah, you would sort of think that would probably be, they're kind of expecting that at some point will be addressed.
Yeah, totally. I think we covered most of the stuff that I wanted to get to with Salt Lake City. Did you guys have any other final thoughts?
No, Heather wrote a book against the church.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
She was talking about being an author of a book that was,
yeah, Bad Mormon. So she documented, I guess, her experience leaving the church, and that's something that she's constantly plugging. And actually, I feel like that kind of speaks a little bit to her motivation for what she was doing in that last scene. Like she really does not want to appear to be like contradicting something that she has written. So she's going to have this like another constructed scene at like the ski slopes, like we saw last episode with the with her and her daughters, and just really trying to push her narrative out there at this ski hill.
Yeah. Oh my God. I also loved doing a little bit of action shooting on the ski hill.
Yeah.